Just drink. I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Film on Tap, where we've got the tap that never runs out. As always, I am joined by my co-hosts Nancy and Andres. And before we jump into our jam-packed show today, well, it's not really jam-packed, but I like to always say jam-packed. Fuck it.
I like them.
Really, keeps the people listening or watching. But before we jump into the show, how are you guys? Are you getting ready for the Thanksgiving week? Nervous, excited, anxious?
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty hungover right now.
Oh, so you're getting started already.
Yeah, I'm getting started now. Although I like definitely I'm feeling it now that I'm older because I only had 3 drinks and I'm just like, oh, I'm fucking dying. So
Yeah,
can't keep up like I used to.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah, that rebound rate isn't as strong as it used to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That was for me in my 20s when I don't think I drank a single thing of water throughout all my 20s and throughout all of college. And then now I'm just like, oh, yeah, you have to hydrate yourself if you want to keep that train going.
Yeah, which I did not. So
Yeah, the amount of lessons you learned during your 20s. But how about you, Andres? How are you feeling going into this Thanksgiving week? Are you hungover?
No, I am completely sober as a bird. But I will say I did go see Gladiator II last night, and last night was Friday. And we woke up early this morning to go see Wicked at 11, and it was packed. It was still packed.
People love their Wicked.
This, honestly, this is such a great indication of the weekend and how the box office is going to be going. Because honestly, it's a great time to go back to the movies. Definitely before the holiday season. So yeah. So no, I'm feeling pretty good that we got 2 great movies coming out. So there we go.
Yeah, the wave before Moana hits, and that's going to destroy the fucking box office.
I don't know, will it?
No, dude, you don't understand how beloved Moana is. It's going to be ridiculous how much money this movie is going to make. It's going to be a juggernaut.
I mean, every parent is going to be forced to drive their kid.
I'm pretty sure they said Moana is one of the most streamed or the most streamed animated movie on Disney Plus or something like that. It's going to do gangbusters.
One of my clients, she forgot. She came home from something, and she was like, she saw Minions. I was like, oh, is that your favorite? She goes, no, Moana is my favorite. Moana 2 is coming out in November. And this was over the summer. I was like, how do you even know this already? It's like, Jesus.
Yeah, so. No, literally, someone who I work with who's not really into movies, they know the release date and they're just talking about how much they want to see it. I'm like, okay, then it's definitely going to do well.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Hold on.
It'll do a lot better than your cough is doing right now.
Oh my God, this cough sucks. Don't get colds, people. It blows. I apologize to your ears.
That's fine. Dude, I hope I don't get sick because when I saw Gladiator last night, I had my White Claw in the cup holder to my right, and this guy sat down and he just goes, and coughs. Doesn't
Gross.
Cover his mouth, doesn't turn his knees, doesn't turn his head. And so I got my White Claw and I got my sleeve and I was just like,
yeah,
wiped it off just in case. And then after that, he started covering his mouth. It's like, that's right, bitch. Keep your germs to yourself.
Yeah, honestly, I'm happy that it happened this week because next week is Thanksgiving and also my birthday weekend and my sister's birthday weekend.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm glad that I'm getting it out of the way now.
Smart.
But enough of us talking about our stupid lives.
Hey, it's a light show. We can we can
vamp a little bit. Especially because I'm just dreading talking about this next trailer because I just whatever. So this first trailer we're gonna be talking about, folks, it's an adaptation of Minecraft that's hitting theaters next year that stars Jack Black, Jason Momoa, and it's an adaptation, of course, of the beloved video game. And we get our first big sneak peek here. We got a little teaser a little while back, but now we have our first full length trailer here. What do we think? Do we like it now? Are we excited now? Are we still on the fence? Do we still think it looks like crap? Let's start with you, Andres.
Yeah. So, I will say I definitely prefer this trailer as opposed to the teaser trailer because the teaser trailer just, I don't know, it just didn't sell me on this universe right off the bat. But I will say this trailer in particular Cough.
Oh, don't draw attention.
Don't point it out.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I will say for this trailer, it definitely got me a tad bit more excited in terms of the universe building and in terms of selling us on the idea of this place, as opposed to the last one, which kind of felt very, very alienating. And having said that, this still has a long way to go in terms of me going, okay, I'm really excited to see this. Like, in terms of seeing Jack Black and in terms of seeing all the other characters in it, that's fine. But in terms of seeing the world and in terms of seeing like more of the creatures and more of the magical aspect of Minecraft, it definitely sold me a little more on it, but not by much.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty much about what I expected. All right, Nancy.
Yeah. Oh, exact same. Also, like, all my clients were always playing this game, and I still don't get the allure of this game. It seems boring. It seems like a janky Sims. Like, I don't get it.
It's essentially just Legos, but in a video game. There's really no rules to it. You just create everything, and that's essentially the allure.
No, I know what the game is, but like the fact that the way it looks, it just seems so fucking boring. And kids are on this like all damn day. So for us to get a movie about it, I'm not very excited. And with this trailer, I don't know, it didn't really do much more than the teaser trailer did for me. If anything, it looks like a fun kids movie. So definitely if you have kids, I think this is going to be a great one to go take them to. But as for me, not so much.
Yeah, I just don't care. I feel like that. I feel like that about sums it up. Like, again, I'm like you, Nancy. I'm one of the people who I never understood the appeal of the games. It just, anytime I watch someone play it, I'm just like bored to tears. And I'm like, how is this enjoyable for you? Like, it looks like a game that was like straight up ripped out of like the 1980s or something. Like, why are the graphics so bad? Like, it's just like, I don't understand, but like, to each their own. But putting that aside, as someone who's never, really been a fan of the games, I'm glad they explained kind of the mechanics of the world and showed a little bit more of the story here. But that being said, I just don't care. I feel like, like Jack Black's trying as hard as, Jason Momoa is trying as hard as, but like, it looks really cheesy. The jokes aren't landing. It doesn't look very fun. It just kind of looks like green screen the movie. And I don't know. I'm good.
Same.
Yep, and completely fair enough. And it still boggles my mind that Minecraft is the highest grossing video game of all time.
Yeah, that's why the movie will probably do well.
Yeah, if Five Nights at Freddy's proved anything, it's probably going to make some cash, but who knows if it's going to be for us.
Yeah, well, God, I hope we don't end up having to see them.
No, thank you.
God, that's a hard pass.
Literally watch anything else.
And speaking of a hard pass, let's talk about our next trailer, which I'm sure we're very, very excited to talk about. And that is the teaser trailer for the live action adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon. That's right. They're remaking How to Train Your Dragon movies. And we get our first teaser trailer here. What do we think? Let's start with you, Nancy.
Look, I am actually excited about this. When I saw it, it looks fucking good. I don't care what you guys say. I think it looks actually good. Compared to all the Disney live action ones that we've gotten that have looked like shit, this looks actually fun and exciting. And I like the way Toothless looks. I think it's good. DreamWorks has had a win with the Wild Robot. And you know what? Let them have another win. Okay. I think this actually looks good.
Okay. Hot take. Andres.
Yeah. For me, it's not necessarily that it doesn't look good. It just looks like a carbon copy of everything that we loved about the original How to Train Your Dragon, which it's a fantastic movie to begin with. So the idea of a live action version of it is just kind of more like, well, we don't need, it's not necessarily needed, but I'm not necessarily going to flat out reject it. But I will say, like, the teaser trailer is beat for beat everything, like literally copy and paste from the original movie, which to me just kind of doesn't really sell me on the concept. But I was more disappointed on the look of Toothless because in a live action version, well, here's the thing.
He looks adorable.
He looks adorable, but they could have done something a little different, translating him from the animated universe into a live action, because everything looks a little different. And given that little sheen of going from animation to live action, I think they could have done something a little different with his look. But I mean, like, honestly, he looks adorable, but to me, this feels less like a movie that needed to exist and more of a movie that just basically goes, hey guys, Universal Studios is opening a How to Train Your Dragon Land. This is basically just like a 2-hour ad for that, and to keep in the public mind, I think, more than anything else. But I'm hoping I'm wrong, because they have the director of the original animated movie directing this, and that is kind of a good thing. Again, I'm not necessarily sold on this right off the bat, but I'm more than willing to have my mind changed when the movie comes out.
The thing is, we're never going to need a live action version of animated movies. So I think
I agree.
Just drop that notion. Like, we're getting it. We don't need it. But does it look good? Is it going to be good? We shall see.
See, my problem with it is that it's just too much of a carbon copy. Like, the shot framing is exactly the same. The look of Toothless is too similar. Like, it just looks like I'm watching the animated movie with live action elements. And I don't really like that. Like, be different a little bit. Like, a lot of the shots, it looked like I was just watching the animated movie and like a live actor was like comped into the footage, where it was like very disconcerting and jarring, and it like took me out of it. And then a lot of the costumes, and just like Gerard Butler, I'm happy that he's back, but like he kind of looks awkward in the costume, and like it looks like a Halloween costume. Like, it just kind of looks cheesy. You know, I just feel like it was perfect as an animated movie, and I feel like it's registering as a little clunky as a live action movie. And they needed to do something a little more different. I feel like they were trying to cater too much to fans of the original with like all the same shots, all the same story elements and everything, showing that in the trailer. Like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, show us what you're doing different. That's going to make me want to see this and not like dread it. You know, that's how I feel.
And also to piggyback on that too, the actor who's playing Hiccup in this,
I don't really like how he looks.
I like it. You're not, cause what's his face that did the voice has such a fucking awkward, like,
I thought he was perfect.
Stands out. No, but I'm just saying, you're not gonna get that in a live action movie. Like, to try and like replicate that, it's gonna just be super fucking awkward.
And that's my entire issue, is that I feel like the actor that they picked is trying so hard to replicate Jay Baruchel's cadence, so much so that he's not really owning the role in
not
that.
At all. Mm-mm.
Oh, I
he does not sound like him at all.
He sounds like an Apatow kid. All right.
No,
sounds like an Apatow.
Yeah, that was like, if there was one flaw I had with the How to Train Your Dragon series, is that they clearly established that this series takes place in Scotland, and all the adults all have accents, but all the kids all sound like Apatow kids. And I just wanted one scene where it just turns into like, oh, it's their kids' birthdays or something like that. It's like, now you are officially a man. Here's your accent, because the accents come out. I mean, like, the kids have no accents whatsoever, and that was probably my biggest flaw with it, and it kind of shook my believability of the universe. But thankfully, the story is so unbelievably well told and so great, and they get you to care about all these characters, that it gets you to basically forget about all those flaws. But again, tiny little thing that just made me laugh.
I feel like if you watch Gladiator and you're able to put past those accents, I feel like you can put that past How to Train Your Dragon.
Exactly.
Because like no one in that movie speaks like Romans do. Like,
and also Ridley Scott does not give a shit.
Yeah,
about
he doesn't
accents.
give a fuck about accurate accents or anything. So
why?
Like, the only time that's ever really bothered me was there was a Tom Cruise movie called Valkyrie, where he's supposed to be playing a German soldier, and like every single person is either British or has an American accent. And literally, like, my dad, who that never bothers, he like just kind of whispers to me, he's like, why don't any of these fucking people sound German?
Yeah.
He's like, I couldn't enjoy the movie. It was just so distracting. I'm like, you know what? I get it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it becomes a nitpick, but then it really just depends on the movie, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah, so safe to say I'm probably the one who's looking forward to it the least, just because I think it's because I love those 3 movies so much, and I'm very protective over them. I think it's a perfect trilogy, and I love that story. Like, it's just a beautifully told story done perfectly in 3 movies. I'm like, I just want, especially from the inception of this project, I was like, no, don't taint this. Come on, like, just leave it alone. It's like, it ended not too long ago. Come on. But it just, this is what studios do. they take successful IP and then, they just do whatever they can to try to milk some more money out of it. And it's just a bummer. But, I'm happy.
They're such downers.
I'm sorry.
Why are you trying to eat Christmas?
I'm sorry. Like, what do you think Disney's been doing for the past 6 years?
Yeah, but those look like trash.
Well, this one looks like trash to me.
Our point. There we go.
So there you go. But so I'm glad that you guys are looking forward to it more than I am. But yeah, I'm look, if there's one thing I love it's being proven wrong. And Dean DuBois, the fact that he's writing and directing it, that does give me some form of optimism, but we'll see what happens. Look, I could be singing a different tune.
Well, still lose his damn leg at the end. That's all I got to say.
See, here's the thing is, whatever reaction we have to the movie so far right now, I will tell you that How to Train Your Dragon has some of the best flying scenes, and that were only enhanced by the 3D elements way back when the day. So again, having that director on board for this to basically direct those sequences, that's the thing that gets me really excited about seeing this version of the movie. Is I know I'm going to be there opening day seeing it in IMAX and in 3D, and I know it's going to be a spectacle, and it's going to be something to get me out and go see the movie.
In 3D. Oh,
I hate and the thing is, I normally hate 3D as well, but How to Train Your Dragon, along with Dread and Avatar, are probably the high points of 3D for me in terms of really using that aspect really well.
No, it's not even that. It's just like, oh man, I would get so nauseous watching that movie in 3D with all the flying and shit.
I will say, How to Train Your Dragon had great 3D. I remember that vividly. All the flying sequences were amazing. Every once in a blue moon, there's a 3D movie that is actually great. But I just saw Wicked in 3D, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. And it was just what? What are we doing? It didn't need to be 3D. It was so dumb.
Oh yeah, you had to go to your press screening in 3D.
It wasn't. No. That was a normal everyday screening. All right.
Oh really?
Yeah. Gladiator was the one I saw early.
Ah, okay. Oh, look, flexing your muscle right there.
I'm just saying, if you're going to insult me,
you're the one who asked.
You know what? Rather than insult you, I'm just going to let you have a nice little segue into Gladiator.
Yeah, all right, whatever thing helps you think. You saved face. But speaking of Gladiator and Wicked, we're not going to be talking about both in this episode, but we are going to be talking about one, and we're going to be talking about the Ridley Scott sequel, Gladiator II. We have all gotten a chance to see it. And obviously, if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to be talking spoilers here. So if you haven't seen the movie, you're going to want to pause this episode, come back to it when you have seen it, or you could just spoil it for yourself, whatever you want to do. We're not going to tell you to live your life. So we're going to be talking about Gladiator 2. We'll talk about our general thoughts first, and then we'll dive into our spoiler heavy thoughts about the movie. So generally, what did you think of Gladiator 2? Let's start with you, Nancy.
I really like this. I made sure to rewatch the first one before I saw this one because I was like, I'm gonna be fucking lost. So I'm glad I did because I would have missed a lot of stuff in the second one. Dare I say, I actually think I liked this one better than the first one.
All right. Well, this has been good. All right.
All right. Listen, bye, guys.
All right.
I can't say why, though. It's not like Gladiator. The first one's a bad movie or slow or anything like that. Just for a reason, I really like this one. The action sequences were fantastic. It was very pretty, shall I say, beautifully shot. I loved it. And the acting was fucking fantastic. Oh my gosh. Denzel Washington. I had no idea that Joseph Quinn was going to be in this movie. And I was like, all right, Joseph Quinn, freaking love him. And I saw him. I was like, oh, dear God. This is a very different Joseph Quinn than we've gotten before. And he just did so well. And also the actor that played his twin brother, the Ed Sheeran looking motherfucker, he did
as he
amazing.
Would love to be called.
Yes, he did amazing as well. So just those performances, I think, just made the movie so much better for me. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
Okay, all right, very positive review. Shifting gears to Andres.
Yeah. So going into this, I definitely thought to myself, do we really need to see a sequel to Gladiator? Especially when I did script coverage back 10 years ago, we got our hands on the original outline for what Gladiator 2 was going to be. And it is bug fuck insane crazy. It actually stars Russell Crowe in the afterlife. And you're like, they were really thinking about making this, and Ridley Scott was seriously about making this. So hearing that it was back on board, I was like, I'm not sure if this is going to be any good. But getting the little tidbits and seeing what the story was, I couldn't help but get excited every single time I saw that trailer. It always sold me on that. And having gone back and rewatched Gladiator again, it's one of those like very seminal pieces of when I was growing up as a film fan. Like, it was one of those that, like, I remember seeing that in particular and going like, this feels like a classic in the making more than anything else. But I will say it does have some flaws, but for me, I love it enough to look past a lot of those flaws. But going into this one, I was very excited. I think ultimately at the end of the day, for me, for this film, I think it's a very strong film. It's a very strong film, but it's not a perfect film. I think it's a very flawed film. I think the cast is fantastic all around. I mean, Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington, Joseph Quinn. Yeah. Everybody is fantastic. You see, I had to stop myself from saying Pedro Pascal because I've been confusing the two. Yeah. But yeah, the entire cast is fantastic. I mean, Ridley Scott's direction is still on point, showing us why he's one of the best in the business. The set pieces are great. The battle sequences are fantastic as well. The costume design, the art direction, everything about this on a technical level is masterful. However, when it comes to the story, it's very thin, and I kind of feel like the pacing is very inconsistent all throughout. And there's some weird CGI choices that really kind of lead this down to a road of it being a very good and very serviceable film, but not the masterclass or the heights that the original was.
Yeah. I definitely agree with the both of you. I mean, I rewatched the original as well. And it's still just a banger. Like, it's just such a great piece of blockbuster filmmaking. I remember having the DVD growing up, and every time I'd look at the case, it'd be all shiny and I'd be like, oh, I should watch this again. You know, like, it'd always just be like one of those. It's just, I will love it. It's one of my favorite Russell Crowe movies, obviously. So when I heard they were making Gladiator II, I was like, that's fucking bold, Ridley Scott. Okay, let's see what you got coming to the table here. And just, the cast alone was like what was selling me. I'm just like, okay, if we're going to do this again, we've got a pretty stacked cast. And I feel like Ridley Scott wouldn't make this movie if like it wasn't going to be worthwhile. And thankfully, I do feel like this is a worthwhile sequel. And I feel like, reactions have kind of been a little bit all over the place to this one. And I feel like it's just because people are inevitably comparing it to the original movie. And yes, it's not as good as the original movie. Like, the original movie is iconic for a reason. It wasn't going to touch that. I went into the movie with those expectations. Like, there's no shot this is going to be as good as the original. Let's just enjoy it on its own merit and try to have a good time with it. And I thought it was way better than, frankly, I was expecting it to be. I mean, I think the performances are fantastic. Yes, Denzel's incredible in the movie. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I really do think Paul Mescal is kind of being undersold here, because I really do feel like he's a fucking beast in this movie. And I really love the emotional drive he added to this character, the emotional heart that he added to this story, especially when it comes to his relationship with his mom, once again played by Connie Nielsen. Great to see her pop back up in the story. Yeah. And also, I think Pedro Pascal, he's not getting enough credit either. I thought he had a really underrated performance in the movie as kind of this, like, tired, just kind of beaten to death general who has conquered so much. He's tired of it. He's tired of ruining lives and just kind of wants to hang up his jersey, put it in the rafters, and just live his life and just, make clay. I don't know. Just like he just wants to live a peaceful life.
Whatever Romans do.
Yeah, whatever Romans do. But the action sequence is spectacular. I love that they're mostly practical. I was worried it was going to be too CGI heavy. There are some CGI elements I don't love that we'll definitely talk about, but I think a lot of these action sequences, they were as visceral and well staged and filmed as I wanted them to be. Very few directors can do scope like Ridley Scott can, and he feels so at home here. And it's incredible just because of just the sheer scale of this movie would just make any director shit their pants trying to take this on. But he just makes it look so easy. And he's so good at making these kinds of swords and sandals epics. And this movie's a huge example of that. And overall, like, I really enjoyed it. I was thoroughly entertained. Yeah, it does have its issues, but at the end of the day, as a fan of that original film, like, I could easily watch these two movies back to back and have a great time. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, even despite its problems.
Yeah. And the one thing that, here's the thing is that I know we talked about how great the performances were. I kind of felt like the actors were making so much work out of what was given to them that I think that their performances are stronger than the content that they were given, especially with Paul Mescal. I think
it's Mescal.
Mescal.
Mescal's like isn't that like a liquor or something?
Probably.
Wait, you're thinking of mezcal, I think.
Mezcal, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's like that smoky.
Yeah.
Smoky
I'm just going to call it him. His last name Mezcal now. That's his new name.
Yeah, that's
Paul Tequila.
Paul. But anyway, like I feel like all the actors are definitely playing far better than the roles that are written for them. Especially like I feel like the character of Lucius was very underwritten in a lot of ways, and I feel like they kind of gave more screen time to a lot of the other characters that I kind of feel like we should have seen a little more of Paul's character, if that makes any sense.
Maybe. I think what I liked about it though is that there was such parallels to the first one, but a lot of reverse. So like Pedro Pascal's character very much felt like Russell Crowe's character in the first one, in the sense of like he's a general who like doesn't want to do this shit anymore. He realizes Rome's going to the crapper and he needs to fix it somehow. So he's like, I'm not going to be a part of this hot mess express. I'm out.
I wish that was a dialogue in the movie. I'm tired of this hot mess express. I'm outie. That's how Romans talk, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I like that we got to see different perspectives of it. And I don't feel like Lucius was the whole story. And that's why I don't feel like he was very much underwritten. I think this was kind of very much an ensemble piece going on. I think it was just, I think it was multiple perspectives of what was happening in the room.
But the thing the big problem I had with at least the first act of this movie is it felt way too similar to the first Gladiator.
Yes.
His whole journey to getting to the Coliseum was like almost beat for beat the same thing that happened to Russell Crowe, where I was just like, okay, well, we've seen this done before and we've seen it done better. Like what? Because he's like firsting a fucking baboon. It's different. It just felt a little bit too much like been there, done that. Like it isn't until he gets to the Coliseum that like, okay, now we're doing different things. We're exploring his character a little bit more. We're meeting new people. And like, now it's interesting. And I just felt like that first half suffered for being too much of like a carbon copy. So that was like kind of the big problem I had.
And it also had... there we go. All right.
At least once an episode, folks.
and I think at least one of the biggest problems with the first act is the pacing.
It's pretty slow.
It feels glacial in comparison to the original as well. But also keep in mind that I kind of feel like there's a lot of story threads that were left on the cutting room floor. Like even Denzel Washington even admitted that an entire character that was integral to the plot was completely omitted from the final cut. And even Ridley Scott has said that there is a 4-hour cut of this movie.
Why does every one of his movies have a director's cut?
You know what? Honestly, I think Ridley Scott, for all the talent that he has, I think he has far too many ideas to basically condense into one movie. That like the thing typical with Ridley Scott is that Ridley Scott's best cuts or his best versions of every movie are kind of his director's cuts every now and again. I mean, Blade Runner, his director's cut is fantastic. His director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven, which again, Kingdom of Heaven is a terrible theatrical cut. Like it's a terrible movie. So many plot threads are missing. And then when you watch the director's cut, it feels like a much more complete story. And arguably that's one of those movies that is the epitome to me of an underrated movie, is his director's cut version of Kingdom of Heaven.
Now, have you watched the director's cut of Napoleon? Because I'm avoiding that like the plague.
I haven't had a chance to see it yet because, unfortunately, being unemployed for the past 5 months, I had to cut off Apple TV for a little bit. But that's one where I am looking forward to watching it, because the word of mouth I've heard on that one is that cut is actually far better than the theatrical as well. I mean, it's funny because when you think with a longer movie, you think it's going to move even slower. But the thing is, a movie's pace is sort of determined by how much we are emotionally invested in the movie. And then the thing is that a bad movie cannot be short enough, but a good movie cannot be long enough. Like there's certain movies out there, like Wicked goes for 2 hours and 40. I did not feel that 2 hour and 40 runtime. Whereas with Gladiator, I felt that so hard.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you for my little diatribe on editing right there.
I mean, Gladiator 2. Which one are you talking about? This one?
Gladiator 2.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there was some moments where I started losing attention span. It did feel a little bit long, but I don't think it was, for me, it wasn't to that extent where I was like, oh my God, this is taking it, like this movie's going on forever. So I think the runtime wasn't that bad for me.
I will say something I feel like no one's talking about. I think it's the most underrated part of the movie. I think like was it like the doctor that's at the Coliseum? I loved his character.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what
opioid doctor?
Yeah, I was literally like, what a great supporting character that I'm glad they left in the movie, because I loved that whole relationship with him and Lucius, and I liked getting to know him a little bit more. Like I thought that was great. Like no one's talking about that. I was like, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he, he's a Roman now and his family's there, and he was like, yeah, my kids have, blue eyes just like you now. And then he kind of goes against that of what, Rome has given him, just like, oh yeah, I got to go deliver this ring and start a war. I'm up for it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool.
Yeah. And speaking about starting the war as well, I mean, can we talk about how great Denzel was in this movie?
I mean, I guess.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be alone on this one, I guess.
Dude, no, I literally said Denzel Washington's incredible in it, but I feel well, I feel like you can always say it so many times before it starts to sound not as like spectacular, but yeah, he's so good in this movie. Like he chews up the scenery. It
took me a bit just because, it's Denzel. Yeah. And I haven't seen him in a period piece. Unfortunately didn't get to see, was it Hamlet that he was in?
Oh, Macbeth.
Macbeth, yeah, Macbeth.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, which I've heard he was really good in it. So it definitely took me a second, seeing Denzel and hearing Denzel, because he doesn't quite have the cadence that everyone else has in terms of, how he's speaking and, that almost regalness that the other cast members brought to it. But after a bit, I was like, okay, he's doing really well. It turned out fine.
But I think it really does. I think it really does lend to the fact of what this character is, where he is he's sort of a character that is castigated and kind of cast aside from what's his name, the king from the original movie. Like, the king from the original movie had this entire dream of Rome being
his name?
It's Augustin.
No, it's definitely not Augustus.
So it's something Aurelius.
Or maybe
that's his last name.
Hold on.
Something Aurelius.
First move. I'm looking it up now because it's going to bother me. I love how I type in. I literally typed in Emperor from First movie into Google, expecting it just to. No, I'm talking about Gladiator. Oh my God. Jesus. It's Marcus Aurelius.
Aurelius. There we go. All right, but I do love the fact that
why am I getting Palpatine?
Emperor Palpatine. Yes.
Oh my God.
But I do love the fact that Denzel's entire arc in this movie is very much in tune with the fact that he's an outsider, and the emperor talked about this big dream of Rome being free for everybody. And then, there's Denzel's character saying, yeah, everybody else was free. I was still a slave at that point. And this dream only applies to certain people. And because of the fact that I lived under his rule and his dream of freedom, that's not necessarily the same vision that I have. So I loved his entire thing where he's like, you know what, I'm going to burn it all down. And I was like, for antagonist plots and for villain plots more than anything else, you know what, I don't necessarily really look at him as a villain. He's more of the antagonist of the entire thing. But
isn't that the villain?
Well, with a villain, like I kind of feel like
he does some pretty villainous shit.
Yeah,
he does some pretty villainous shit, but I bought it, if that makes any sense. Like I bought his.
You understand the motivation behind it, yeah. But I also think it wasn't necessarily like, oh, everyone else is free, and for certain people it wasn't. I think what he was saying was that he had this idea that Rome would belong to the people towards the end of his reign, because he really thought, okay, I built this huge empire and like shit, it's gotten a little bit away from me. So I feel like that's why he turned to Maximus in the first one of like, hey, I need you to like rein this back in and like give it back to the people. And what Denzel was saying is like, that's just not feasible. Like with how big Rome is and the dream that he had is fiction. Like there's no way you can do that with that big of an empire. And that's what he was missing. So he was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
We need to burn it down, like you said. But I think just, it wasn't necessarily just like, oh, woe is me. It was just like, I ended up being the only one, in this position. It was just like, hey, there are plenty of people who this has affected. And that dream of having this empire that belongs to the people, it's not going to work. So
yeah,
we got to start from scratch, start it over.
I actually like the fact that they kept his past like a mystery. Like there's a great scene where Lucius is talking to him and Lucius asks him like, what was your Roman name? And he just kind of smiles and he just goes, you'll never know. and I was just like, I love that. In
his very Denzel way of delivering that way, he's like, like he almost has like kind of like this Harrison Ford, like devil may care smile. Like every single time that he smiles at you, you kind of feel like, shit, did I just fuck up here right now? Or is something about to happen? Or is he just really, really kind of taking the piss out of it right now? Like that's the one thing that I love about the ambiguity of his sort of performance, or like not necessarily ambiguity, but sort of like, I know a lot of people are complaining about the fact of like his performance seems uneven from all the rest of the cast members, but I think that's very intentional. And for me, it worked.
Well, I think it worked for pretty much everybody. Yeah. I mean, he's already getting like Oscar attention. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor here. Like he was always entertaining to watch, especially when the movie started to drag a little bit. Anytime he was there, I was like, it was just thoroughly entertaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what was your favorite scene in the movie? That's the big question.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me think.
Digest that, process it, get back to it.
While I think of one to pin down, I will say, like any scene with the twins, like I fucking
yes,
because they were just so over the top.
Joseph Quinn is just so versatile. I love him.
So good.
Gosh. If this dude doesn't eventually win an Oscar, like
I think he will. He's so good. I mean, just like compare this to A Quiet Place Day One. It's the same guy. It's just like wow.
Yeah.
And Stranger Things, like going from that to this, like so good. Yeah, they kind of reminded me. I don't know if you guys ever watched It's Always Sunny.
Like the McDoyles.
Creepy. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. Except like they're more like kind of like down note and like deadpan, and these guys are like way over the top.
Yeah.
Way over the top with a lot of syphilis, right?
Yeah. Oh, that was funny. I love how they just like slid that in very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, he has syphilis, by the way. That's why he's going insane. Oh my God, when he appointed the monkey for
I lost it so hard where all of a sudden I was like, wait, he's appointed the monkey? I mean, like like even like people in the past, like Caligula, freaking appointed a horse as city councilman at one point. So I'm like, oh, this is like such a great like little little nod to all those crazy dictators of the past.
I was just like, oh man, that syphilis has officially hit. He's pointing at a monkey.
And I love the fact that Denzel in that scene, he's like, guys, cheer the councilman, and then he
doesn't give a crap because he's getting appointed too. So he's like, whatever.
Right.
Oh yeah.
The thing I love about Denzel's characters, I love villains that are like expert chess players, where you constantly see them making moves in their head of like what they're going to do next. They're like 2-3 moves ahead of like, okay, well, if I do this and I say this to this person, they'll do this and that'll create this opportunity. And then I can seize that and use this person to get this done. Like, it's just like, you could see the gears turning constantly where like, he's kind of pleased with himself and like everything is working out the way he wants it to, especially in that scene where he gets appointed. So I love characters like that. And if you're going to have someone play a character like that, you get Denzel.
Yeah. And so easily manipulated with the younger one, the one that had syphilis. You could see he was just playing into Denzel the whole time. I will say one of the other lines that cracked me up was when he was talking about how his brother's always an asshole to him and how he tried to kill him in the womb by like strangling his umbilical cord. And Denzel's just like, oh, you remember that, huh?
Yeah, you remember that.
Like in the womb, you remember that still.
I also love the character that keeps getting into heavier debt with Denzel.
Oh my God.
That dumbass. Like,
just keeps doubling down.
Now I own your house.
That was like the first domino that he needed. I felt like he's like, all right, let me get this guy into debt. And then I know he knows shit. So he's going to owe me. And so I feel like that's what set everything into motion.
No, it was great.
Stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but the other big supporting player that I felt, honestly, I felt like he's not getting his deserves on this is Pedro Pascal.
His deserves.
I don't think he's getting the respect that he deserves for this one.
He's not getting his deserves, folks.
I like it. That's our new saying.
I'm definitely gonna be using that in future episodes. Deserves. You know who didn't get your deserves in this movie?
Yeah.
Man, Pedro Pascal had some bass in his voice in this movie too. I was like, dang. All right,
man. He's got that like weary-eyed look down.
Yeah. But I loved the arc that they took with his character where I kind of felt that they were going to go more for, like I said, an antagonist perspective where all of a sudden, he feels that what he's doing is right. And, oh, you know what? I'm going to kill Lucius anyway. I don't give a crap. But I was really shocked by the turn that it took when you found out that he was actually married to Lucius's mother from the original film, and that out of everything that he felt, he definitely felt remorse for what had happened and for what he took away from him. And I love the fact that they did play on the aspect of that war and pain is just a cycle and it just keeps going, and that by the end, when he's in the gladiator pit with him, he just literally drops his shield and just goes, just want to let you know that your mom and I, we loved you and your father loved you. And like, honestly, you don't see that a lot in these type of characters. And I thought that was actually a really great way to make this different from the original. And I think Pedro Pascal played it perfectly to a T.
Yeah. I don't know if he loved him though. He didn't know him.
I mean, he didn't know him, but like he at least had the respect for him, and he at least knew that, yeah, I took someone important away from you.
Wait, what?
Yeah. I felt that he did.
Yeah, because his whole conquest, he ended up killing his wife.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Which I also feel like they kind of rushed. They rushed that. Yeah, I was like,
I forgot about that part.
Yeah, like you're supposed to feel that emotion, which I felt like I felt in the first movie with Russell Crowe, but in this one, I just felt so rushed that like when it happened, I felt nothing. I was like, okay, well, he needed an inciting incident, like I don't know. Yeah. It was just kind of like, I don't know. I wish they developed that just a little bit more, just so that we felt something when she did get murdered.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's in Ridley Scott's director's cut.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I also like the concept of like, be careful what you wish for, because that was the whole thing Lucius wanted to begin with, was to have him in the arena. And then as soon as he gets him, it's like, no, you idiot. He's on your side. Like he wants to like help you out. Now you're stuck murdering him. Awful.
No, I will say something I did really love about this movie is that you really feel Maximus's legacy. Like it doesn't feel like he's just completely forgotten about, like not only with the gladiators there of like his legend, but like the people still talk about him. Like his legend is still spread. Like his presence is still very much felt throughout the course of the movie, not just because Lucius is his son, but because of like what he did, what he stood for. I just felt like that was a great way of like carrying that through from the original movie and having him essentially be in the movie without being in the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But a big thing that I was afraid of going into this is that we would miss Maximus and we would miss that presence. But the fact is, like, honestly, throughout this entire movie, this felt like such a different thing entirely that I think Paul really rose to the occasion with the film and with his performance in the movie, that I didn't necessarily miss Russell Crowe, but it was like, this kind of felt like it felt like a progression of that story, an expansion of that story that didn't really need Maximus to really carry that forward, but it needed the iconography of him and what he meant to the gladiator pits going forward. So I kind of felt that I thought that was good on the movie for like not making me go, oh man, you remember how good the last one was as opposed to this movie.
Yeah, kind of circling back to Tom's original question of what scene we liked. I actually really liked the water boat scene, the fight on the boats. I know the sharks, you guys are probably like, those did not look great. But other than that, I thought I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. It was a different way to use the arena that we hadn't seen in the first one. So yeah, that one's up there.
Yeah, that one for me was one of my favorites. That one for me was one of my favorites as well too. And the thing is, growing up, I remember in middle school, right when we were studying like gladiator arenas and all the other stuff in the Roman times, the first Gladiator was coming out around the same time, and like as extra credit, if our parents were willing to take us, we could go see Gladiator and we would get extra credit. And all I remember was as soon as we came back and we started studying up on it, it was like, oh yeah, in actual real Roman times, they filled up the arenas with like sharks and gators and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I wanted to see that. And it kind of felt like a very like, oh, we finally got to see a little taste of that from historically accurate times and all that other stuff. But also I would say that was probably my favorite scene. I would say probably my least favorite scene, unfortunately. The baboon scene, unfortunately. I thought the CG didn't look good in that one. And I didn't buy that they were actually wrestling with the baboons in that.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Because here's the thing is that like, when you look at the original movie, they did certain camera tricks and certain animatronics to really sell us on the idea that they were in the gladiator pits with the tigers, and you bought that entirely. And it's still stunning to watch 24 years later. And I think that baboon scene is indicative of some of the more questionable CGI elements of the movie, but overall, like that to me is probably my least favorite scene, or the scene I was the most disappointed in, if that makes any sense. But I think everything going forward from that really rose to the occasion.
Yeah. Oh my God, though, when he bit the baboon and like spit it out, I was like,
yeah. And I love like all the other like fighters' reaction to that, like when he goes to, like down to eat and everyone's just like,
I start making fun of him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but also like another really great scene for me as well, and in terms of establishing the character of Lucius as his own thing, was the rowing scene in particular. Like when he uses that rage to sort of get everything that he needs to get in the gladiator pits, and then just being put through the test on that, and just seeing how his character is very sort of self-sufficient, and his arc towards needing a team and needing people around him to really get what he wants at the end. I thought that was really great. But also his delivery of a wooden point and a steel point, still a point.
Oh my God. That part, it's just like hammering it into his neck. It's like, holy shit. You deserve it though.
Very deserved.
No, I just love how he's constantly demonstrated as like this like beast where like he can take a fucking beating, but then he'll, like once he gets his strength or finds his pocket, like don't mess with this guy.
Yeah. Badass.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything about this movie that you think is better than the original movie? I know Nancy might have some thoughts and she actually likes this one better than the original, but is there anything here that you liked more?
I think there were just supporting characters that I liked more and like carried a lot of the story. And I think maybe that's why I like it a little bit more, because it feels more of an ensemble than just like one person.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I would say probably the big upgrade that they did from the last movie is I feel that there was a wider palette in terms of the cinematography, because the original film sort of had it's very stylish and it's very stylized and it's very beautiful looking. But I will say the visuals in this one looked as good, if not even better, especially in the afterlife sequences as well. Like, those in particular sort of felt like that was like Ridley Scott peering in, just be like, this is what the original Gladiator II could have looked like. Just all this taking place in the afterlife with Russell Crowe. And I love the fact that Ridley Scott absolutely loved that script, and then Russell Crowe read it as like, I'm out. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, I think Russell Crowe made the right choice.
Oh yeah.
I do like that sequence though, where they show his wife getting onto the boat. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting on the river Styx, and like that's something that it feels very much what Ridley Scott is today, as opposed to what he was, 20 or 25 years ago or so. But like, yeah, his visuals, I think, have only gotten better over time.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's rumbles that there might be a third Gladiator movie. So that's what I'm hearing. Now, would you want another Gladiator movie?
I don't know. Because I feel like even with this one, I was like, man, fucking Rome. Like, you didn't learn your lesson already.
Fucking Rome.
Like, do we need I think I would just be disappointed if, like, we go to the third one and it's like, here's Rome just fucking shit up again. Like, we're still stuck here. So if it was something like, maybe like, I don't know, Lucius takes the throne and like things are better, and then an outside source, like, I don't know, something like that.
I'm just picturing Nancy leaving a history class, and then she's just like, fucking Rome.
Fucking Rome. You didn't learn your lesson.
Together.
I mean, the idea of a third Gladiator movie, again, I think we've said what we kind of need to say with the second one, but I felt that same way with the first one. Honestly, if they find a good enough story to tell and something that is worthwhile of going back into this universe, now going back to this universe maybe 10 or 15 years later, or even 20 years later, I'd be more open to that, as opposed to let's get a third Gladiator film in 5 years with Ridley Scott again. I think if they made a third Gladiator film, I think they would have to move away from Ridley Scott at some point. Well,
and also too, like, a lot of this is based off of real people, and obviously actual historical events. So I feel like you're going to have to go through those history books and find another appealing story that happens after this, to keep it going.
It's definitely got its work cut out for it, though, and I don't know where they would go going forward from this.
Yeah. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, because I was seeing if there was any, like, maybe anything about it, but I don't need another one. Like, honestly, I never needed a sequel to begin with. Like, it'd be weird to have a Gladiator trilogy. I don't know. Like, it would feel weird. Like, I do feel like this one carries the torch from the first one in a way that was satisfying and, was way better than it had any right to be. But I just don't, I feel like we get enough of what the story would be, or like what would happen following the events of this movie, that I don't need to see that happen or see that contended with. So I'm okay not getting another one, but that's just me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what would you give this one out of 5 pints, guys? What are we feeling?
I'm going to go 4. I think it was entertaining. I was entertained, if you will. And, yeah, I liked it. I'm going to go 4 out of 5 pints.
4 out of 5. All right. Andres?
Yeah, I would say overall it's a very entertaining movie, be it a flawed sequel, but I still had a fun time with it. I would absolutely recommend a fan of the original to go see this one. I think it's a worthy follow-up and a worthy sequel, but ultimately at the end of the day, there are enough flaws in it that kind of keep it from achieving greatness. So I'm going to say it's a 3.5 for me, myself.
All right. I'm also going to give it 4. I was very entertained. I think it has a lot going for it. I think it's a very worthwhile sequel. I think it's got great action sequences, performances, and I think it really just kind of carries that through line from the first movie in a really satisfying way. So yeah, I enjoyed it. This weekend, I feel like movie fans are eating pretty dang good with Gladiator and Wicked. So, let us know what you think of this movie in the comments if you've seen it. Do you like it as much as the original? Do you think that it's better than the original? Let us know down below. And of course, let us know what you think of the trailers for How to Train Your Dragon and Minecraft. Definitely curious to hear your reactions to those. And before we head on out, where can the fine people find you guys on the interwebs? Andre?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky and Instagram as Galaghost. You can also find me on Letterboxd as Galaghost. I'm on that almost every time now, and every time I watch a movie, I always post up a review shortly after I've seen it. So you can find me on Letterboxd as Galaghost. You can also find me on the High Voltage Media channel, where we finally have posted up our retrospective on Executive Decision. So that's up online on High Voltage Media on YouTube. And you can also find me and Jen just did a tag team on Settle the Score against Champs on Film, Adam Collins and Marisol McKee. That was a really fun time. So go check that out on their YouTube channel. And you can also find me here. And like Nancy, I love reading the comments.
All right, Nancy.
Dang, stole my line. I'm just kidding. You can find me at SPL_Bandaid on Twitter and Instagram. I'm also on Letterboxd, but I don't do reviews. I don't got time for that shit. So if you want to see what I watched though and what I rate it, it is NER86PL. Yeah, and you can find me here, rating those comments.
All right, guys. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on YouTube and Facebook at Chattelbash Reviews, Twitter and Instagram at Tom Chattelbash. You can find me on Letterboxd at T Chattelbash. And thank you for tuning in to a brand new episode of Film on Tap. We hope you enjoyed it, whether you watched it or listened to it. And we will see you next time on a brand new episode of Film on Tap, where we've got the tap that never runs out. Take care, guys.
Bye.
The gods have spoken.
Okay.
No.